After being reborn, I personally tore up my admission letter to Peking University and rejected the dramatic confessions of both childhood friends. In my previous life, I had chosen one of them, Ryan Carter. However, on our wedding day, he abandoned me for Sophia Lynn, leaving me humiliated and breaking my grandmother's heart, the only family I had left. She passed away in grief and anger, leaving me in utter despair. At my lowest point, my other childhood friend, Ethan Brooks, took my hand and said, "You still have me. I will never let you down." He helped me walk out of the darkness and married me. But after our wedding, he became distant and cold. I thought it was because he regretted that we couldn't have children. It wasn't until a car accident that I discovered the truth. Ethan left me dying to save Sophia, who only had minor injuries. I died on the spot. As my soul drifted, I learned the devastating truth. My entire life had been part of a twisted love game played by the three of them. They had already written their wills, leaving all their inheritance to Sophia. My inability to have children? It turned out they had bribed a doctor to remove my uterus, a cruel act to prove their loyalty to Sophia. Given a second chance at life, I decided to stay far away from all of them and live a life that belonged solely to me. When I tore up the admission letter to Peking University, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Taylor, was horrified. "Emma, what are you doing? This year, our school produced 4 students admitted to Peking University, and you're the only one who made it as the city's top scorer." The entire school had high hopes for me, but I remained calm and said, "I don't want to go to Peking University. I've already applied to the special research program at National University. They've promised to assign medical staff to care for my grandmother." Hearing this, Mr. Taylor let out a sigh of relief. "I see. Well, Emma, considering your family circumstances, it's a good decision. Study hard and build a bright future for yourself. Repay your grandmother for raising you." I nodded, hiding the bitterness of my previous life. Before I could get too caught up in my emotions, Ryan and Ethan called, urging me to come downstairs. On my way, I noticed people pointing and whispering. One even tripped me on the stairs and sneered, "Slut." Confused, I limped to a corner and overheard Sophia talking with Ryan and Ethan. "I really saw Emma getting out of a Peking University board member's car late at night," Sophia said, feigning concern. "But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Maybe she did get in based on her grades." "Sophia, stop defending her," Ryan snapped. "She refuses to publish her grades because she's guilty of something." "Exactly," Ethan added. "You're too kind, Sophia. That manipulative woman is capable of anything." My heart sank as I clenched my fists. Joining the research program required signing a confidentiality agreement, which meant I couldn't disclose my grades. I never thought this would give Sophia a reason to slander me. Worse, Ryan and Ethan, who knew how hard I studied for my grandmother, chose to believe her lies. I forced a bitter smile, telling myself it didn't matter. Once I officially joined the research program, all my personal information would be hidden. I could finally cut ties with them and escape the lies and deceit that had destroyed me in my past life. Pretending I hadn't overheard anything, I walked up to the trio. "What do you need?" Ryan's condescending tone disappeared as he smiled warmly. "Emma, this is great. We'll be at the same school again. All your efforts have finally paid off," Ethan added with a smirk. "And we can keep protecting you. For years isn't enough. We'll be here for life." Nearby, a group of younger girls glanced at us with envy, but I felt nothing. In my previous life, we all attended the same university. I studied hard, participated in countless school activities, and worked tirelessly for a bright future. Yet in the end, my scholarship and guaranteed postgraduate research position were secretly manipulated and given to Sophia Lynn instead. On top of that, rumors spread that I had an improper relationship with the school administration. I endured isolation and bullying for 4 long years. During that time, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks would repeatedly tell me they would always stand by my side and protect me. But after my death, I discovered that they were the masterminds behind everything. They used my suffering to amuse the person they truly loved, Sophia. Seeing me silent, Sophia spoke with a saccharine tone. "Emma, you're so lucky, born into a life of privilege, with 2 childhood friends who are utterly devoted to you. I've never been that fortunate. If it weren't for your financial support, I wouldn't have been able to continue my education. Hearing this, Ryan and Ethan immediately showed concern for her. Sophia, don't say that. Ryan said. You're so beautiful and talented. You'll have an amazing future ahead of you. Once you graduate, I'll ask my dad to get you a position as a general manager. No, Sophia. Ethan interrupted. Come to my company instead. I'll give you a higher position and better benefits. Whatever you want. It's yours. The two of them began competing to outdo each other for Sophia's favor. Watching this, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Despite knowing each other for so many years, they had never made such promises or shown this kind of affection toward me. It was clear. Love that came from the heart could never be faked. As I was about to leave, Ryan noticed my expression and, looking somewhat guilty, grabbed my hand. Emma, don't overthink it. We're only treating Sophia well because she's your friend. Ethan ruffled my hair. Just like when we were kids. Don't let your mind wander. We finally finished exams. Let's go for a drive. We've prepared a gift for you. I nodded, not wanting to refuse. I would be leaving soon, and part of me wanted one last look at the city where we had grown up together. When we reached the parking garage, Ryan and Ethan eagerly competed to have Sophia sit in their front passenger seat. Sophia hesitated theatrically and glanced at me. But isn't the front seat reserved for Emma? If I sit there, she'll be upset. Ryan quickly guided her into his passenger seat. She won't mind. She's the most easygoing person. Ethan glared at Ryan, frustrated, and slammed his car door shut. It wasn't until the car was about to start that they realized I hadn't gotten in yet. Rolling down their windows, they exchanged awkward glances, trying to come up with an explanation but failing to find the right words. It's fine, I said calmly. I'll drive myself. Hearing this, they both sighed in relief, though they still seemed puzzled by my unusual behavior. I rolled up my window, unwilling to hear any more of their insincere excuses. As I drove, the familiar scenery stirred memories of the past. The three of us had grown up together, inseparable. Our families had even competed over who I would marry one day. But after my parents died in an accident, the once grand and family was reduced to just me and my grandmother. The two of us struggled to keep our fragile home intact amidst a circle of predators. That was why I had thrown myself into my studies, desperate to take on the family responsibilities as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Sophia, who came from a poor background, was looked down upon at school. When I found out she was also an orphan, I pitied her and offered my friendship, supporting her financially and emotionally through school. I encouraged her to persevere through hardships with me, but she took my kindness as condescension and grew envious of everything I had. She used every trick to manipulate my two childhood friends and, with their help, destroyed my life. Lost in my thoughts, I didn't realize we had arrived at our destination, perhaps out of guilt from earlier. Ryan and Ethan rushed to open my car door and carry my bags. Emma, look, Ryan said eagerly. This is the park we used to visit when we were kids. Ethan and I bought it together. From now on, it'll be our secret hideaway. Ethan nodded, adding, I've had your favorite yellow roses planted here. By this time next year, there'll be a breathtaking sea of roses. The four of us can come here to drive around and watch the stars. Their faces were full of excitement and hope for the future. As if nothing had changed, I stared at the land before me, lost in thought. This was indeed our childhood secret base, a place filled with happy memories for the three of us. Yet, I had never liked yellow roses. In fact, I was allergic to all pollen. As I was immersed in my thoughts, a series of dazzling fireworks exploded overhead, spelling out my name in vibrant colors. The scene was breathtaking, almost surreal. Under this dreamlike backdrop, Ryan Carter took out a jade bracelet and held it out to me. Emma, this is my family's heirloom bracelet. My parents instructed me to give it to the future mistress of the Carter family. I've wanted to give it to you for a long time, and now I finally have the chance. Emma, will you be with me? Don't you remember when you almost drowned as a child? I risked my life to save you. I could give you my life. What's a mere bracelet compared to that? In my past life, I had been deceived by their show of deep affection. Back then, I naively believed that, as childhood friends, we would have a happy ending and that my grandmother and the family would have someone to rely on. It wasn't until the day I died that I realized even the most heartfelt acts of devotion could be staged. Just as I was about to refuse, Sophia Lynn suddenly interrupted, her voice trembling with faux distress. Emma, why did you tell people that I've been spreading nasty rumors about you? Now everyone is cursing me. Look. She held her phone up to my face, showing hundreds of comments on the school's official website accusing her of shamelessly sleeping her way into the university. The few comments defending me had been twisted by Sophia into evidence that I was attacking her. Ethan Brooks snatched the phone from her hands, his face livid. Emma, how could you do something like this? It's one thing if you don't behave properly yourself, but why drag Sophia into this? Ryan didn't explode like Ethan, but his expression was no less accusatory. He looked at me with quiet disappointment, as though I had truly wronged Sophia. Suppressing the storm of emotions inside me, I said calmly, I didn't do it. If you don't believe me, you can investigate it yourselves. But neither of them listened. They were too busy comforting Sophia. Don't worry, Sophia, Ryan said, his tone gentle. I'll contact the PR department right away to fix this. Let's go grab some ice cream, Ethan added. Sweets always cheer you up. The two of them flanked Sophia, guiding her away with care and devotion. Neither of them even glanced back at me. I took a deep breath, staring silently at the ashes left behind by the fireworks. Compared to the pain of death, this humiliation was nothing. At least I was alive, with a new life and future ahead of me. I decided to drive home, but then I remembered that Ethan had carried my bag earlier. I had no choice but to catch up to the three of them. As I passed through a grove of trees, I overheard Ethan's irritated voice. Sophia, sweetheart, how much longer do we have to keep up this charade? I can't stand it anymore. That Emma plays around so much. Who knows if she's carrying some kind of disease? She's so naive. She can't even tell the difference between an antique and a fake. No wonder she got seduced by an old man in just a few sweet words. Someone like her doesn't deserve to be the mistress of the Carter family. The true heirloom bracelet belongs to you, Sophia. Sophia gave him a pitiful look, her voice soft yet manipulative. Emma has done a lot of bad things, but she's been kind to me. How could I just abandon her? If you don't do as I say, I'll stop talking to you. At her words, the two men, so proud and seemingly untouchable, immediately apologized to her, their fear of upsetting her almost comical. They would trample over me just to elevate her to the heavens. A decade of shared memories and companionship couldn't compare to a few of Sophia's words. Fighting back tears, I turned away and walked toward home under the endless night sky, carrying nothing but exhaustion. By the time I got home, my sprained ankle was so swollen it was unrecognizable. My grandmother, distressed, quickly brought out medicinal wine to massage it for me. Not wanting to worry her further, I told her about my acceptance into the research program. Her eyes filled with surprise and joy. My Emma is so capable. I'm so proud of you. Grandma is getting older, and I'm the only one left to carry the Inn family forward. Holding back tears, I nodded. After so many years, it's finally a good thing for the Inn family. Grandma smiled, saying, we must throw a grand banquet to celebrate this joyous occasion. Her smile mirrored the one she had on the day she sent me off to my wedding in my past life. Back then, she thought I had found a good man and was full of happiness. But the shock of Ryan Carter fleeing the wedding for Sophia Lynn killed her on the spot. This time, in this new life, I was determined not to let history repeat itself. Given Grandma's age, I took on all the responsibilities of planning the banquet. When Ryan and Ethan Brooks heard about it, they offered to help, even bringing my favorite childhood treat, strawberry cake, as a peace offering. Emma, are you still upset about that day? You haven't replied to our messages for so long, Ryan said. We didn't mean to blame you. We were just worried you might make mistakes. For people like us, reputation is very important. I didn't forgive them, but I allowed them to stay and help. They owed me far too much for things to ever truly be resolved. All I wanted now was to never see them again in this life. After my parents passed, the Inn family fell into decline, and the once busy household became desolate. Today, with this banquet, I wanted to show everyone that the Inn family still had a future, that we were no longer easy targets for bullying. Grandma took the event very seriously, ensuring that every detail was perfect. On the day of the banquet, prominent guests filled the hall. Among them was Sophia Lynn, dressed in a custom-made gown, trailing behind Ryan and Ethan as she gracefully entered. Her eyes scanned the luxurious venue, filled with jealousy. Emma's life is truly charmed, she muttered to herself. But so what if you're born into privilege and excel in academics? I'll make sure you live a life worse than death. No sooner had her words fallen than the hall's massive screens lit up, displaying photos of me, one after another. The images showed me naked, in compromising positions with various men. The crowd erupted. Isn't that the N family's eldest daughter? This is outrageous. Figures. Kids without proper parental guidance always turn out rotten. No wonder people say she got into university by sleeping her way there. Seems pretty accurate to me. The N family is finished. Letting their daughter degrade herself like this? What a disgrace. I had lived through this humiliation twice before. The first time was on my wedding day, when Ryan abandoned me for Sophia, leading to Grandma's death and making the N family the talk of the town. The second time was at my funeral, where Ethan proposed to Sophia right by my grave, turning my entire life into a joke. The memories hit me like a tidal wave. Panicked, I turned to look at Grandma. Her breathing was rapid. Her eyes reddened as she stared at the photos. My Emma would never do something like this, she exclaimed. Seeing her condition deteriorate, my heart sank. I begged those around me to help take her to the hospital, but everyone stepped back, unwilling to be associated with someone they now considered tainted. Finally, Ryan and Ethan emerged from the crowd. Ryan took charge of driving, while Ethan and I supported Grandma as we rushed her to the hospital. Luckily, we arrived just in time. Any later, and she might not have made it. I thanked the doctors profusely and stayed by her bedside while investigating the surveillance footage. As expected, the footage revealed Sophia's involvement. She had deliberately switched the photos. Every single image displayed on the screen was a fabricated composite, entirely false. I held the surveillance footage, intending to report it to the police, but Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks blocked my way. It was just a joke, Ryan said dismissively. Do you really have to blow this out of proportion? Do you even realize what this will do to Sophia if you go through with it? I froze, staring at them in disbelief. Then, unable to hold back any longer, I yelled, "What about me? My grandma almost died because of this. Doesn't it matter that this could have ruined me? Ruined the N family?" Ethan immediately stepped in front of Sophia, shielding her protectively, and shoved me hard. "Enough already. Emma, your grandma is fine now, isn't she? Besides, rumors don't come out of nowhere. You must have done something disgraceful to make people talk." Their words no longer hurt me the way they once did. I felt numb. I pushed past them, but Ryan grabbed my wrist, his face dark and unyielding. "Emma, don't make a fool of yourself. You know the power our families hold. No lawyer would dare take this case." When I refused to back down, Ryan tightened his grip on my wrist and leaned closer. "Don't forget, your grandma is still in the hospital. One word from me, and I can stop her treatment. I'll count to 3. Hand over the footage, or I'll have someone pull the plug on her ventilator." He dialed a number right in front of me. 3, 2. "I'm sorry. Please don't." I collapsed to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I couldn't risk my grandmother's life. Ethan snatched my phone from me and smashed it to pieces on the ground. The shards cut into my skin. But he only looked at me coldly. "As long as we're here, you'll never harm Sophia." I sat there on the ground, staring blankly as their figures disappeared. The pain in my chest swelled until it was unbearable. The grievances and humiliation of 2 lifetimes came flooding out all at once. I cried uncontrollably, my heart breaking into pieces. Promises made in youth had been lies. The bond of childhood friendship had been a farce. Only the hurt they inflicted was real. I didn't know how long I sat there, but eventually, I forced myself to return to the hospital like a lifeless shell, fearing Ryan and Ethan might tamper with her treatment. I stayed by my grandmother's side, refusing to leave even for a moment. During those days, the only messages I received were from Sophia. She sent me pictures of herself with Ryan and Ethan, traveling, bungee jumping, and doing all the things we had once planned to do together but never did. I blocked her number. When I looked up, I saw 2 tall men standing by my grandmother's bedside. They saluted me with sharp precision. "Miss and we're medics assigned by the organization. Please rest assured that we'll take care of your grandmother's safety and health while you're away." Only then did I realize it was time for me to leave. I returned to the in-family home and threw away everything that reminded me of Ryan and Ethan. Without hesitation, I boarded a plane. Ryan and Ethan had never been my pillars of support. From now on, I would rely on myself to secure a bright future for my grandmother and the N family. Meanwhile, after their trip ended, it was almost time for school to start. Ryan and Ethan had been enjoying themselves but couldn't shake a lingering unease. They knew deep down that their actions regarding Sophia had gone too far. "Emma's been through so much already," Ryan finally admitted. "She lost her parents at such a young age and only has her frail grandmother by her side. She went astray. It wasn't entirely her fault." Ethan sighed. His expression conflicted. "We've known her since we were kids. We grew up together. As her childhood friends, we should have been there to guide and protect her. Not." He trailed off, the weight of his guilt leaving the rest unsaid. On the way home, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks bought a variety of gifts for Emma, piling their car with bags. Once they arrived, they headed straight to the hospital with supplements and other gifts for Grandma Anne. However, they were met with a cold refusal at the door. "Mrs. N is a person of high status. Unrelated individuals are not allowed to disturb her rest." The phrase "unrelated individuals" struck Ryan and Ethan like a blow. They had grown up with Emma, closer than family, yet now they were being labeled as outsiders. Ethan rolled up his sleeves, ready to argue, but Ryan stopped him. His brows furrowed. As the heir to the Carter family, he instinctively sensed that the person blocking their way was not ordinary. "Where is Emma? Have her come out and tell us if we're really outsiders," Ryan demanded. The person blocking the door responded coolly, "No comment," and promptly shut the door in their faces. Humiliated, they left, with Ethan muttering angrily, "Emma's temper is getting worse by the day. Who knows what bad habits she's picked up. Honestly, we've been too good to her. Spoiled her rotten." Ryan, however, couldn't shake an uneasy feeling, like something essential was suddenly missing. The emptiness gnawed at him, unfamiliar and unsettling. "Let's check the N estate," Ryan suggested. They drove there in silence, but when they arrived, they found the estate eerily dark and empty. Not a single soul in sight. Even Ethan, who had been brimming with anger, began to feel uneasy. The two of them climbed over the wall, just like they had as children, and made their way to Emma's room. But what they found stunned them. The once cozy and vibrant room was now completely barren, covered only in a thin layer of dust. How could this happen? "Where's Emma?" Ryan stared in disbelief. "Where are all the things I gave her? She used to treasure them so much." "My gifts are gone too," Ethan added, his voice trembling. "Even the photos of the three of us. Our travel journals. Everything is gone." They exchanged a glance, the unease in their hearts spreading like wildfire. "Where could she have gone?" Ethan asked, his voice shaking. "The N family has been in decline for years. No one would dare take her in. She's probably just throwing a tantrum and hiding somewhere. When we find her, I'll make sure to teach her a lesson. What right does she have to act like this?" They began making frantic calls to their friends, asking if anyone had seen Emma. They also instructed their bodyguards to search the city. By dawn, they had turned the city upside down but found no trace of her. Her ID, bank cards, and all other personal information were no longer valid. The only people who might know her whereabouts were completely out of their reach. The Emma who had once stayed by their side, no matter what, had now vanished entirely, leaving no trace behind, as if she had dissolved into thin air. Ryan and Ethan were consumed by fear and sorrow, so much so that even Sophia Lynn's invitations couldn't rouse their interest. Where did Emma go? Is she angry with us? Will she ever forgive us? Ryan muttered in the silence of his room, but no one answered. The lively, intelligent girl they had once known would never return. Meanwhile, Emma had landed at her destination after a long flight and a lengthy car ride. Exhausted from the journey, she finally arrived. Her teacher greeted her warmly. "Welcome, Miss And, the brilliant young talent. Finally, you're here. We've been eagerly waiting for you," my teacher said warmly. "When we heard you applied to Peking University, we were heartbroken. Talent like you. How could we let you slip away? Thank you, Professor. I promise I'll study hard and live up to your trust and support. I replied, bowing respectfully. He glanced at my profile. From a young age, you've shown great interest in this field. So why did you apply to Peking University? For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Peking University had been Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks' dream. Growing up together, from our earliest words to adulthood, we were inseparable. We made a pact to attend the same university and stay together forever. Then Sophia Lynn entered the picture, replacing me. Ryan and Ethan, with their family connections, took the special admission route, pouring who knows how much money into ensuring Sophia could also get in. Ironically, the three of them, who used backdoor methods to enroll, later spread rumors that I had used underhanded means to secure my place. Thinking about it, I gave a self-deprecating smile. Back then, I was young and naive, trusting the wrong people and taking the wrong path. But now, given a second chance, I wouldn't make the same mistakes. Heaven had granted me an opportunity to start over, and I was determined to make something of myself this time. My teacher patted my shoulder with satisfaction. Good. Very good. First, I worried whether someone like you, raised in comfort, could handle the hardships here. But seeing your determination puts my mind at ease. The future belongs to young people like you. No hardship could compare to the pain of my past life. At least now, my grandmother was still alive, and I hadn't wasted half my life chasing after two people who didn't deserve it. From then on, I blocked out all distractions and threw myself into my studies. One day, as I was leaving the lab after a long night, I unexpectedly ran into Ryan and Ethan. I rubbed my eyes, thinking my exhaustion was playing tricks on me, but they clearly called out my name. Beside me, a senior whispered, "Emma, don't mess with those two big shots. Rumor has it they donated $2 million just to get a tour of the research group." As he spoke, Ethan strode over with a displeased expression and yanked me aside. "You just can't resist flirting everywhere you go, can you? If you're that desperate to get married, why not just come to me?" My senior tried to defend me, but knowing Ethan's bad temper, I gestured for him to leave, not wanting him to get caught up in this mess. Ryan, on the other hand, maintained some semblance of composure. His gaze was complicated as he looked at me. "Emma, why did you leave without saying goodbye? Why did you change your plans so suddenly? Why did you throw away the things we gave you? Why did you leave us?" His barrage of questions was relentless, making my ears ring. I rubbed my temples, my tone sharp. "Ryan Carter, what right do you have to question me? What exactly are you to me?" He froze, his hand hovering in midair, unable to answer. In this lifetime, I hadn't accepted his confession, hadn't loved him so deeply that I lost myself. To me, he was nothing. Even the meager childhood bond we shared had been consumed by the repeated harm they inflicted on me. Ethan Brooks, usually so proud and haughty, lowered his head slightly, his pride taking a rare hit. Was what happened last time really our fault? Did we go too far? But did you really have to be this heartless? Do you even know how long we searched for you? They told me how, after I left, they had been so desperate that they nearly lost their minds. In the end, with no other options, they knelt before my grandmother to beg for my whereabouts. Grandma, too kind and soft-hearted to ignore them, eventually told them about my decision. She had watched them grow up and couldn't bear to see them in such a state. I hadn't chosen either of them. Instead, I had chosen a new life for myself. And so, they used all their connections, sparing no expense, even millions of dollars, just to see me again. But my heart remained unmoved. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of their declarations to Sophia Lynn on the day of their confession. Then I looked at them coldly, expressionless. "Stop pretending. The game is over. If you like Sophia, go after her. Don't use my life as a tool to fulfill your so-called great love. I have my own life to live, and I hope you will stop interfering in it." The moment those words left my mouth, both of their confident facades crumbled, their faces turned pale, and they stood there speechless, their mouths opening and closing without a sound. Only the recording from my phone continued to replay their words, over and over again. Ethan, frustrated, lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, glaring at him coldly. "This is the research center. There are security personnel here. Don't think you can destroy my phone or erase the evidence. And don't even try to threaten me with my grandmother again. Just mentioning grandma brought a sharp pain to my chest. She had treated them so well, almost like her own grandsons. In the summer, she made refreshing fruit tea for all three of us. In the winter, she knitted scarves to keep us warm. For every holiday, every special occasion, she prepared 3 portions of snacks and gifts, never missing a single one. And yet, in my most vulnerable and desperate moments, when I needed their help the most, they had turned on me. Worse, they had used my grandmother's life to threaten me. I could not forgive them. I would not forgive them. Ryan's usually composed face flickered with a trace of pain. Emma, it's not what you think. That day, I only wanted to scare you. Grandma is like family to us, too. How could I ever harm her? Yes, Emma, Ethan chimed in, his voice tinged with urgency. You're forgetting. It was us who helped you take Grandma to the hospital. I let out a cold laugh. It's because of that very fact that I didn't hold you accountable. But my patience with you ends here. Ryan Carter, Ethan Brooks. I am no longer the helpless orphan you could push around. I will not let anyone hurt me or my grandmother again. My future is long and bright, and I have neither the time nor the energy to waste on people who don't deserve it. They opened their mouths as if to argue, but before they could say anything further, the security personnel from the research center stepped forward, blocking their way. Excuse me, gentlemen. One of the research center staff interrupted politely. Your visiting time is over. Please leave and do not disrupt our regular work. Though clearly unwilling, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks had no choice but to leave. After walking some distance, Ryan abruptly turned back to look at me. Emma, we grew up together. I don't believe your heart can be so cold that you can completely forget our past. Yes, we made mistakes, but we'll prove to you that our feelings for you have never changed. Ethan nodded earnestly. One day, you'll forgive us. Hearing these words now, I couldn't help but find them laughable. In both my past and present lives, their excuses hadn't changed at all. Back then, they used the same appeals to our shared childhood to deceive me, tricking me into marrying them, trapping me in an empty house, and wasting my entire life on false promises. What I couldn't understand was why, when I was the one who had grown up with them, they never trusted me. Instead, they chose to hurt me so deeply for someone like Sophia Lynn, someone they had only recently met. And now, having claimed to love Sophia so much, why were they here again, pretending to care so deeply for me? I didn't know if their words were sincere or just another ploy orchestrated for Sophia's sake. But what I did know was that from now on, my life had nothing to do with them, and I had no desire to see them again. I underestimated their persistence. However, in the days that followed, the food at the research center suddenly improved, almost doubling in quality. Nearly every meal consisted of dishes I liked, and strawberry cake, my childhood favorite, was delivered punctually every day. Everyone from the senior staff to the cleaning personnel received gifts. My senior couldn't help but remark, Emma, are those two trying to win you over? They're certainly generous. Are you jealous? I joked lightly. What's there to envy? He scoffed. Anyone who chooses this path shouldn't care about material things. He was right. I wasn't the girl who could be moved by a piece of cake or a sweet word anymore. Now, I had a bright and promising future ahead of me, a wonderful life waiting. Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks were nothing more than insignificant specks in my long journey. But the less I responded to their efforts, the harder they tried. Gifts flooded in like a never-ending stream, making my life miserable. Finally, my teacher had to personally intervene to put an end to their ridiculous antics, allowing me a period of peace and quiet. Even so, I couldn't avoid seeing them when I returned home during the holiday. This time, the two of them looked completely different. The once proud heir of a wealthy family and the rebellious rich playboy now appeared haggard, their confident air gone. As I helped Grandma stroll through the garden under the sun, they approached, bringing a tearful Sophia Lynn with them. Emma, we need to talk, Ryan said. I know you don't want to see us, but this will be the last time. If we don't say this now, we'll die with regret. I didn't want to deal with them, but Grandma gently patted my hand. Go, she urged. Some things can't be avoided forever, no matter the outcome. It's better to resolve them. Reluctantly, I led the three of them into the living room. As soon as they entered, Ryan and Ethan knelt down, their faces etched with pain and sorrow, as if they were drowning in endless torment. Emma, Ryan began, his voice trembling. The night after you left, Ethan and I had the same dream. In the dream, we did terrible things to you, one after another. The dream felt so real, so vivid, it was like it had actually happened. That's when we realized why you left and why you've been so cold to us. I didn't respond, but Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks were already in tears. Beside them, Sophia Lynn suddenly rushed forward, throwing herself at my feet as she broke into loud sobs. Emma, please, I beg you to forgive me. I never wanted to ruin your relationships with them. I never did anything wrong. I only liked them innocently and wanted to repay your kindness. Shut up. Ethan grabbed Sophia and slapped her hard across the face. His whole body shook with rage. You wretched liar. It's all because of you that we ended up like this with Emma. We found your diary hidden under the table. You never liked us at all. You got close to us on purpose because you envied Emma and wanted to hurt her through us. As their accusations unfolded, many mysteries from my two lives began to make sense. Sophia had used me to learn everything about Ryan and Ethan's preferences. She had carefully molded herself into the ideal image they would fall for. One moment, she played hard to get. The next, she acted cute and submissive, like a cat toying with mice. She manipulated them into the palm of her hand. Seeing no way to defend herself, Sophia dropped her pretense entirely. Her eyes gleamed with a mixture of fury and desperation as she screamed at them hysterically. Yes, I did it all on purpose. So what? Why does she get everything handed to her from birth while I have to survive on her charity? I'm just as beautiful and talented as she is. Why do you both adore her so blindly? It's unfair. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted her to know that the love she thinks she has is nothing more than the scraps I decided to leave for her. Ethan couldn't hold back any longer. He kicked Sophia hard, sending her sprawling to the floor. His temper, which had been wild and uncontrollable since childhood, exploded into blind rage. This time, he didn't hold back. Afraid they would tarnish the family estate, quickly stepped in. Enough. If you want to fight, take it outside. Don't put on this farce in front of me. Emma, I'm sorry, Ryan murmured, his voice heavy with regret. I was so foolish, so easily deceived by her lies. I forgot our past. I forgot how amazing you are. The two of them looked at me, their pride shattered, and broke into sobs. Ryan kept muttering under his breath. I've always cared about you. That's never changed. But you were so smart, so exceptional. I wasn't confident I could win you over, so I deluded myself into believing her lies. I thought dragging you down would be the only way to keep you by my side. They thought they could pull me into the mud, that they could trap me there forever. But the tides of life aren't so easily controlled. From that mire, I grew wings and flew far away, beyond their reach, beyond their sight. Sophia Lynn was hospitalized from the beating. Her face was disfigured, and she was forced to withdraw from school. Ryan and Ethan, too, faced repercussions for their actions. With my teacher's help, I applied pressure on both the Carter and Brooks families, ensuring that they would never appear before me again. They could bully the orphan Emma of the past, but they couldn't bring down the determined and ambitious Emma I had become. The day I returned to the research center, the sun was bright and warm. I didn't know what would become of those three, but I knew my path ahead was clear and radiant. When Ethan once again confessed his love to Emma in English at home, I still pretended not to understand. However, he remained immersed in the dreamlike illusions of our past life, waiting for me to devote my life to him once again, letting him indulge in his platonic love with Emma. But this time, he didn't even bother to give me the promise of marriage. When I decided to leave, he hid my college acceptance letter again and even sabotaged my records, trying to trap me at home. But life had given me a second chance. This time, I was determined to become a professor, walking the path he once did, and leaving him no way forward. Ethan, your English sounds so good, I said teasingly, feigning innocence. What does this sentence mean? Your love is not like theirs. Your love is much greater. You set me free. Ethan read the English sentence aloud, his voice low and deliberate, full of emotion. before translating it into Chinese. Once, I had loved listening to him read English, but in the past, I only got the chance when he read to his children. Whenever it was just the two of us, he was always impatient with me. Emma, sitting beside him, blushed and coyly said, "How annoying. You're embarrassing me on purpose." Ethan chuckled. "You're blushing." His mother entered the room, smiling warmly as she brought a tray of neatly sliced fruit for Emma. Then, turning to me, she tossed a pile of green beans into my hands and snapped, "Why are you just standing there? Start cooking. Can't you see we have guests today?" Hearing her voice, Ethan came out of the room and told me to slice some cured meat. Emma likes our family's cured meat. My uncle brought it specially for me because he knows I like it. But Ethan only remembered Emma's likes and preferences. In our 30 years of marriage in the past life, he never once remembered what I liked. Fortunately, in this life, I hadn't married him, and I never would. Just then, the person I had been waiting for finally arrived. Mr. Carter came over, smiling brightly, before he could knock. I opened the door. He looked surprised but quickly said, "Peony, congratulations. You've been accepted to Jinhua University. You've brought such honor to the school." Jinhua University, the university I had always dreamed of attending. In the past life, I had excitedly shared the news with Ethan, only for him to convince me otherwise. "Peony," he had said, "your parents' health isn't great, and your younger siblings need help with school. Why don't you wait until I graduate and get a job? Once we get married, I'll support you." After my parents passed away, Ethan's father, as my father's former comrade, took their pension and brought me to live with their family. I had always felt indebted to them and couldn't bring myself to let them pay my tuition. Besides, in that life, my heart was entirely fixated on Ethan. "Don't worry, Ethan," I had said back then. "You go to college first. I'll take care of the family." His parents praised me for being so considerate and sensible, as if I had received the greatest reward. I foolishly thought I'd have my chance later. But after Ethan graduated, got a job, and married, he never mentioned my education again. He even complained that my night classes were disrupting his rest and hindering his progress. This time, however, I was determined to live for myself. Mr. Carter added, "The official admission letter probably won't arrive until the end of the month. I'll help you apply for a scholarship. This is a rare opportunity." That moment, Ethan's younger siblings, Jack and Lisa, burst into the yard, nearly knocking over Mr. Carter. In the past life, these two troublemakers had caused me no end of frustration. This time, I couldn't even be bothered to scold them. Their mother's sharp voice rang out from inside the house. "What are you doing? Hurry up and make dinner. Everyone's waiting to eat." I turned to Mr. Carter and said deliberately, "When the admission letter arrives at school, please hold on to it for me. I'll pick it up myself." I emphasized the word myself, and Mr. Carter seemed to understand. "Of course," he said. I let out a sigh of relief. Once I got my hands on that letter, I would completely sever my ties with Ethan's family. Inside, Ethan and Emma were still studying English together, exchanging affectionate words and gazes. Ethan's younger siblings sat nearby, watching them with admiration. When Ethan's mother saw me watching from the doorway, she snapped in her sharp, cutting voice, "What are you looking at? You don't understand what they're saying, so stop bothering them. Go light the fire and start cooking." In my past life, I had worked myself to the bone for this family and for Ethan, and in the end, what did I get? I was driven to my death by Ethan's entire family. This time, I wouldn't repeat the same mistakes, but it wasn't time to confront them openly yet. I walked to the kitchen, picked up the cleaver, and began chopping vegetables with deliberate force. The loud thuds echoed through the room. "Peony, can you keep it down? You're disturbing us." Ethan's voice came from the other room. I let out a cold laugh but didn't reply. I made the simplest meal I could and carried it to the table. Ethan and Emma were already seated, with Jack and Lisa eagerly waiting for dinner to start. Ethan placed a few pieces of cured meat into Emma's bowl and said, "Peony just threw something together. Eat a little to fill up for now. She's much better at this than me. I'm clumsy and terrible at these things." Emma responded with a shy smile. "You'll be doing academic work in the future. There's no need for you to bother with trivial household chores. Jack and Lisa chimed in enthusiastically. Yeah, Emma and Ethan got into the same university. They're going to be big scholars someday. The whole family laughed and chatted happily, as if they were a picture of perfect harmony. Meanwhile, I was the only one who didn't belong. Quietly, I put down my chopsticks, left the table, and went back to the tiny storage room that had been turned into my bedroom. Nobody even noticed. Inside, I began packing my meager belongings. As I folded my clothes, I heard a knock at the door. Peony, are you asleep? It was Ethan's voice. What do you want? I replied flatly. Peony, did you get your acceptance letter? He asked. I didn't answer. Instead, he pushed open the door and saw the packed bag on my bed. You're leaving? What will happen to this family if you go? What about Mom and Dad? What about Jack and Lisa? He demanded. His familiar lines from the past struck me like a cruel déjà vu. I smirked coldly and said, Oh, they're not my parents, not my siblings. If you want to guilt trip someone, why don't you ask your beloved Emma? That's ridiculous. Emma is so delicate and talented. How could she waste her time and energy on trivial household chores? Ethan exclaimed, his voice filled with emotion as if Emma were some untouchable treasure. I had thought I was numb to all this, but his words still pierced my heart. So, it's a waste for Emma to do these things? And me? Am I supposed to spend my whole life being worn down by your family's endless demands? How dare you compare yourself to Emma? He retorted, his tone full of disdain. You're just an orphan with no parents. Our family took you in, gave you a home, fed you, and even paid for your high school education. Isn't that enough? What more could you possibly want? So that's how he saw me, as someone who wasn't even worthy of comparison to Emma. Everything I had, in his eyes, was their charity, and I was supposed to be endlessly grateful, no matter how much I suffered. Well, Ethan, did your family not take my parents' pension? Or the rental income from my parents' house? Even that precious cured meat your beloved Emma is eating today came from meat tickets my uncle exchanged for me. And you ask what I want? I want to leave, far away from your family. Ethan stared at me, a mocking smile forming on his lips. You're not thinking of using this as a way to force me to marry you, are you? Let me make it clear. Peony, I will never marry you. Ethan's voice carried a poetic rhythm as he spoke. There is a kind of love, in life after life, in age after age, forever, year after year, life after life, until eternity. That sentence confirmed something chilling. Ethan had been reborn too. His habit of explaining things to me in a mix of English and Chinese was something he had only developed after becoming an associate professor in the foreign languages department. Or, more precisely, after Emma became a widow. That time, I was overwhelmed with caring for his ailing parents and our young children. Still, I squeezed in every spare moment to learn a bit of English, hoping to feel closer to him. As a professor of foreign languages, he often had opportunities to go abroad. I dreamed of accompanying him one day, longing to see the world, anywhere at all. It didn't matter if it was Cambridge, a royal palace, or a cathedral. The year he got the chance to go to England, he bought a particularly expensive-looking women's wool coat. I examined it countless times, convinced it was meant for me. I even arranged for neighbors to help care for his parents and the children, preparing myself for the possibility that he might invite me along. I went so far as to memorize numerous sonnets, hoping to surprise him with my self-taught English. I wasn't bad at it, and I imagined us sharing conversations in the language someday. But in the end, the coat ended up on Emma. They went to England together when he was promoted to associate professor. I later saw a photo of them standing outside a conference venue, both wearing matching coats and leaning slightly toward each other. Their intimacy was undeniable. When I confronted him, he brushed it off, saying, it was just a photo with a colleague on a work trip. After that, he learned French and Spanish, leaving me further behind. He became more impatient with me, and I stopped trying to bridge the gap. It wasn't until after his death that I realized the truth. The languages he studied were not for academic pursuits, but to communicate with Emma in ways I couldn't understand. They were a tool for him to flaunt his bond with her in front of me. Subtle, romantic, and impossible for me to penetrate. My decades of effort seemed like a pitiful joke. I seem to have loved you in numberless forms, numberless times, in life after life, in age after age, forever. I recited in perfect London accented English, then translated fluently into Chinese. I feel like I've loved you countless times, in countless ways, year after year, life after life, until eternity. Ethan froze. He hadn't expected me to understand, let alone speak with such precision. I smiled coldly. Just a few lines of English poetry. Do you think that's enough to describe your so-called great love? Or are you lying to yourself? You want me for the stability I bring to the family, but you also want Emma for her intellectual companionship. Aren't you just trying to have it all? His expression stiffened, and the disdain and impatience in his eyes deepened. Peony, what exactly are you trying to do? I told you. I want to leave. To have nothing more to do with you or your family. Isn't that what you wanted too? A lifetime of love thwarted by me? How tragic. He stood there, stunned, clearly not expecting me to speak so boldly. In our past life, I had been timid and submissive, always obeying him and enduring his demands without complaint. But this time, I refused to let him trample on my dignity again. Peony, if you leave me, leave our family, you really think you'll get into college? He sneered. That's not for you to worry about. I replied coldly. Even if I regret this later, I won't give you the chance to see it. And the same goes for you, Professor Lin. But less than 3 days later, I was forced back to the Lin household, not of my own will, but because I was summoned. Ethan's parents had somehow manipulated the situation, causing me to lose my university admission. They claimed there was an issue with my records, and I had to return home to wait for further notice. Mr. Carter told me that my acceptance letter still hadn't arrived. Neither the school nor the local post office could track it down. It became clear that someone had intervened. Perhaps Mr. Carter's husband, who was a distant relative of the Lin family, had told Ethan's parents about my acceptance. Or maybe it was Ethan himself, ever the hypocrite, using this as a way to dodge his family responsibilities and keep me trapped. Whatever the case, I waited and waited. The university's enrollment deadline came and went. But there was no resolution to the supposed issue with my records, and the acceptance letter never arrived. All my efforts, all my hard work, had brought me back to square one. No worse than square one. This was an even more dire situation than my past life. Peony, Ethan's just thinking about what's best for you, his mother said in her falsely sweet tone. What good is all that studying for a woman? Staying at home and supporting your husband is the proper path. Yes, Peony, Ethan chimed in, with that smug look on his face. It's just your fate. If you couldn't go to college, then it simply wasn't meant to be. Accept it and focus on your duties at home. I don't believe in fate, especially not the kind dictated by these two hypocrites. Ethan wore a look of triumph. I told you to stop being stubborn, but you wouldn't listen. I think you should start helping out at the cafeteria where my mom works. That way, you'll have an easy transition when you take over her job. Did he really think he could trap me this way? Ethan, you're wrong. Even if I don't go to college, I will still be 100 times better than a hypocrite like you. With those words, I left the Lin house. I didn't turn back, no matter how loudly they yelled behind me. On the road, I bumped into Emma, dressed in a brand new skirt and carrying a shiny leather handbag. She smirked at me. Oh, if it isn't Peony, the girl who got into college but couldn't even attend. Look at your shabby clothes. Even if you went to university, you'd just be wasting the spot. Better to leave it for someone who truly deserves it. I stared at her handbag, the fine Italian leather glistening in the sunlight. I recognized the brand. In my past life, Ethan had bought Emma a similar one after he'd become successful. That time, I had been haggling with vegetable vendors at the market over a few cents, while Ethan dismissed my complaints with, "What's the point of buying you nice things? You don't have anywhere to wear them. It's better to give them to someone who truly needs them." They really were two peas in a pod. A pair of toxic narcissists destined for each other. Emma noticed my gaze and her smugness deepened. What's the matter? Didn't Ethan buy you anything? This skirt and handbag were both gifts from him. You'll never have anything like this. A cold chill ran through me, from my feet to my head. Suddenly, everything made sense. My missing acceptance letter, Ethan's unexpected windfall, Emma's new accessories. It all pointed to one disgusting truth. I clenched my fists, trying to suppress the fury boiling inside me. I wouldn't let them win. Without hesitation, I went straight to the police station and reported my stolen acceptance letter. The officers were indifferent, brushing me off with claims that cases like this were hard to investigate. They told me to go home and wait for updates. But I knew the Lin family was behind this, and I wasn't going to give up. I needed evidence to expose their treachery. I took a train to Jinhua University and found the admissions officer who had handled my application. The officer assured me that the admissions process had been handled correctly, but the students whose records had unresolved issues were not admitted. I felt as though I were sinking into a bottomless pit, but I refused to surrender. This fight wasn't over. I refused to remain trapped by the Lin family. Even if I couldn't enroll this year, I would find a way to move forward. Determined, I went to the post office, knowing my acceptance letter had been sent through them. Maybe they had some clues. Thankfully, after hearing my situation, a staff member agreed to search their records. After a while, they looked at me with a strange expression. Peony-chan, your acceptance letter was indeed sent out. The person who signed for it was Ethan Lin. Though I had suspected as much, hearing it confirmed sent a wave of fury through me. My mind buzzed as if a string had snapped. Ethan Lin. He had actually impersonated me to sign for my letter. I forced myself to remain calm and asked for a copy of the signed receipt, showing my ID to prove my claim. The staff member hesitated but eventually agreed. When I received the copy, my hands trembled as I stared at Ethan's bold, sweeping signature. My anger erupted. Without another thought, I stormed out of the post office and headed straight for the Lin house. I needed answers. Peony, you're back. Ethan's mother greeted me at the gate. Look how much work piled up while you were gone. I shoved past her without a word and marched into the courtyard. Ethan, Emma, and his father were sitting at the table, enjoying a meal. They all froze when they saw me. I walked straight up to Ethan and threw the receipt copy in his face. Explain this. What do you have to say for yourself? Ethan glanced at the paper and smirked. Yeah, I signed for it. So what? Do you have any other proof? The enrollment deadline has passed anyway. You can't enroll now, so why not just stay home? Honestly, you're a joke. Always chasing after things beyond your reach. His tone was dripping with condescension, but I knew he wasn't just mocking this life. He was talking about the past one too. I thought back to that time when I had bought a nice shirt to attend a class reunion with him, only to find out he'd already invited Emma. That same expression was on his face then, as if I were a clown performing a pathetic act. Emma stood up, carrying a plate of freshly washed apples. She smiled sweetly, though her words were razor-sharp. Peony, you really can't prove anything with this slip of paper. And your attitude toward your elders, so disrespectful. Where are your manners? Ethan's mother chimed in, emboldened by Emma's support. I must have been blind to think you were a good person. Look at Emma. So considerate, so talented, and such a good match for Ethan. You, on the other hand, are always causing trouble. I took a deep breath, suppressing the fury bubbling in my chest. In this life, they didn't even bother hiding their true selves. Their masks of false kindness were gone, revealing their ugly faces. They had destroyed my future, stolen my dreams, and now they wanted to compare me to Emma, rubbing salt into the wound. I didn't waste more words on them. Instead, I steeled myself with newfound resolve. I would fight back. Even if I couldn't go to college this time, I would make Ethan, his family, and Emma pay for what they had done. I sought out Mr. Carter, who was equally outraged on my behalf. He immediately contacted the university to verify my records, confirming that there had been no reported issues. Using my parents' work-related deaths as a basis, he helped me obtain an official statement explaining my situation. With this document, I would at least be eligible to retake the college entrance exams. Mr. Carter also arranged for me to repeat my senior year at school. But I knew that as long as I stayed in this county, the Lin family could still sabotage me. They would stop at nothing to ensure I lost my chance at college again. I decided to move to Jing City, not only to distance myself from the Lin family but also because it was home to Jinhua University. There, I could immerse myself in an academic atmosphere up close. But more importantly, in my previous life, Ethan Lin's first windfall had come from a publishing house located just across the street from Jinhua University. This time, I was determined to take that opportunity away from him while he was busy courting Emma. Before leaving the county, I bought some envelopes and stationery and wrote a letter of complaint to the Education Bureau, detailing my experience. I accused the Lin family and Emma of colluding to sell my university admission slot. My hands trembled as I wrote each word, pouring my anger and frustration into the letter. When I was done, I took a deep breath and dropped it into the mailbox. Despite completing this task, I didn't feel any relief, only a growing sense of anxiety. I had no idea if the letter would ever be read or if an investigation would uncover the truth. But doing something felt better than doing nothing. As expected, the publishing house was hiring translators. It was a time when a flood of foreign literature was entering the country. Since the 1977 maritime regulations, translation fees had increased significantly. After submitting a trial translation, the publishing house was impressed with my work and offered me a job. The job came with free meals, lodging, and an advance on my salary. Although it wasn't much, it was enough for me to get by. The dormitory was tiny, with peeling walls and a persistent musty smell that couldn't be aired out. But compared to the damp, sunless storage room at the Lin house, this place was a paradise. My daily routine consisted of translating from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., staring at dense blocks of English text until my eyes burned and couldn't stay open. Yet, I felt deeply satisfied. In my previous life, I had run myself ragged, spinning like a top to serve the Lin family, only to be treated worse than a dog. This time, I was finally living for myself. The publishing director was kind to me, often sharing translation tips and encouraging me to keep learning. "Peony, your English is excellent. You have real talent. Balancing work and study like this is the essence of a modern woman." I forced a bitter smile. Talent? It wasn't talent. It was desperation. In my last life, I had forced myself to learn English just to impress Ethan and have a reason to talk to him. Thinking back on it now, it was laughable. One day, I was translating a foreign novel about love. The story vividly depicted the intense and passionate romance between the main characters. I was completely engrossed until I came across a name, Charles. That name was all too familiar. In my past life, the letters exchanged between Ethan and Emma had been signed Charles and Daisy. My hands trembled as I flipped through the book. The love letters Charles wrote to Daisy were strikingly similar to those Ethan had written to Emma. So the poems that had moved countless people after Ethan's death were nothing more than plagiarized scraps pieced together from someone else's work. Disgust churned in my stomach. I had always believed Ethan's coldness toward me stemmed from his deep love for Emma, but now I saw him for what he truly was: a hypocritical, pretentious fraud. His so-called noble love was nothing more than a pathetic imitation. I swallowed my nausea and forced myself to continue translating. As Charles and Daisy's story became increasingly explicit, vivid images of Ethan and Emma's secret trysts filled my mind. My stomach turned violently, and I felt like I was going to be sick. I couldn't hold it in anymore and rushed to the bathroom, vomiting violently. When I emerged, the publishing director sighed sympathetically. "Translation work is truly exhausting. You should take care of yourself. I also heard you're preparing to retake the college entrance exams. That's not easy at all." I forced a weak smile. "I'm fine. I can handle it," I said, nodding, though my heart felt heavy with bitterness. In my previous life, Ethan Lin had destroyed my future. This time, I was determined to succeed, to get into college and reclaim my dignity. In the days that followed, I worked and studied even harder. During the day, I immersed myself in translation work. At night, I studied for the exams. I barely allowed myself any rest, fearing that if I stopped, I would think about Ethan and Emma, their betrayal, and the pain they had caused me. The memories of my tragic past life haunted me, pushing me forward relentlessly. Finally, my hard work paid off. I was accepted into Jinhua University again. Overwhelmed with joy, I nearly burst into tears. Holding that acceptance letter in my hands was more than just grasping a piece of paper. It was holding on to a new beginning, a new life. With my acceptance letter in hand, I went to the publishing house to resign. "Peony, I knew you could do it," the director said, beaming with pride. "You're always welcome back to continue translating." I'll even raise your pay. I smiled and nodded, but my heart was a whirlwind of emotions. The director didn't know how much that book I translated had changed my life. It had broken me, yet it also gave me the strength to rise again. Standing at the gates of Jinhua University, I watched the students walking back and forth, my heart swelling with hope and anticipation. Just then, Emma appeared, dressed in a light pink dress. The moment she saw me, her eyes reddened. "Peony," she began, her voice quivering. "I know you're still angry at me, but Ethan's mother is sick now. He needs you." Sick? Of course. She needed me, not as a person, but as a free caretaker. I let out a derisive laugh, not bothering to hide my disdain. Emma bit her lower lip, her eyes welling with tears as she spoke again. "Peony, I know you're upset with Ethan, but his mother truly can't manage on her own right now. You know how busy Ethan is with his studies. He doesn't have the time. Couldn't you just take a break from school and come back to help for a while?" "So you're asking me to drop out of college to play the free maid again?" I said coldly. "Your family has always been so generous. Ethan's mom has always been so fond of you, always treated you so well. Wouldn't you feel better knowing she's being cared for?" Emma tried to appeal to me with her usual saccharine tone. "I don't feel anything of the sort. In fact, I'm worried she might be too comfortable." I shot back, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Emma, stop pretending in front of me. We both know exactly what you want. You'd love for me to stay at the Lynn house, so you and Ethan can live your little fairytale life together." Her face turned ashen, her lips trembling as she opened her mouth to speak, but I had no interest in hearing her excuses. I turned to leave, only to see Ethan step out from the shadows. He caught Emma as she looked like she might collapse from her tears and turned to me, his tone accusatory. "Peony, this isn't like before. This time, my mother's illness worsened because she wasn't brought to the hospital in time. You bear some responsibility for that." I froze, stunned by the sheer absurdity of his claim. In my previous life, I had stayed at the Lynn house, sacrificing my dreams and youth to care for his mother. As I was there, she had received timely treatment and never developed chronic issues. But in this life, I had left early, pursuing my own path. Without their free labor, Ethan's mother's health had declined, and now, Ethan had the audacity to blame me for it. I let out a sharp laugh, unable to contain my disbelief at his twisted logic. This only solidified my belief that leaving them was the best decision I had ever made. Beside him, Emma continued to sob pitifully. "Peony, I know you're still mad at Ethan, but please, have some compassion for his mother. She truly needs you right now. Can't you just take a break from school and come back to care for her, even for a little while?" Her pleas fell on deaf ears. I had no intention of stepping back into that house of nightmares. I turned to Ethan Lynn, glaring at his hypocritical face as disgust surged within me. "You knew your mother wasn't in good health, yet you didn't prepare in advance. And now you come to blame me." My voice was icy, each word piercing him like shards of ice. "I was busy studying. Besides, my mom's always been fine," he protested, his tone defensive. "Fine? Fine enough to suddenly fall gravely ill." I let out a cold laugh, tearing apart his flimsy excuse without mercy. "Ethan, stop pretending. You thought I'd step in and take care of everything, didn't you? That's why you were so reckless. But you're wrong. I told you a year ago. I cut all ties with the Lynn family. I owe you nothing, and even if you regret it now, I won't give you another chance." Yet, they didn't give up. Instead, they escalated their attacks. At Jinhua University, rumors spread like wildfire, painting me as an ungrateful, heartless woman who abandoned her ailing foster mother. They even plastered large posters on the school bulletin board, accusing me of being a selfish ingrate. Within days of my enrollment, I had gained an infamous reputation. Everywhere I went, people whispered and pointed. First, I thought the rumors would die down, like a passing storm, but I underestimated Ethan Lynn and Emma, as well as the gullibility of some students. Hate notes piled up in my dorm room. Some cursed me, saying I didn't deserve to live. Others demanded I leave Jinhua immediately. Someone poured ink on my bed, and my books were torn to shreds. The dorm supervisor, her face full of disdain, told me to move out to avoid disturbing the harmony of the dormitory. Even in the library, I could feel the hostile stares around me. The final straw came when a sophomore girl stormed up to me, her face twisted with rage. "Peony-chan, how dare you use that name? You're disgusting enough to ruin your own reputation, but now you're dragging mine down with you. Someone like you doesn't deserve to stay at Jinhua. Drop out already." I nearly laughed at her audacity. I recognized her. She wasn't me. Her name was Lily Liu, the daughter of the county mayor. In my previous life, I had heard she was expelled from Jinhua for cheating. I had long suspected that my stolen acceptance letter had been sold to her. Now, here she was, boldly claiming my name and even berating me for it. Well, Lily, I said, smirking. Long time no see. What happened? Did the mayor's precious daughter forget her own name just to attend college? Her face turned ghostly pale. She opened her mouth to retort but couldn't utter a word. Defeated, she fled in embarrassment. I reported the incident to the school, laying out the facts, but the admissions office blocked my efforts yet again. Refusing to back down, I marched straight to the president's office. There, I presented the full story. How Lily Liu had taken my place. How Ethan, Lin and Emma had fueled the smear campaign against me. And all the evidence I had gathered. The president immediately launched an investigation. The truth came out quickly. Lily's enrollment was revoked, and she was expelled from the university. Meanwhile, Ethan and Emma received official warnings and were ordered to issue a public apology to me. I thought that would be the end of it, but it turned out to be the calm before the storm. Ethan and Emma publicly apologized, but behind the scenes, they escalated their attacks. They spread even nastier rumors, claiming I had framed Lily Liu just to secure my place at Jinhua, and that I had seduced the president to stay in school. These lies were more malicious and easier for people to believe. After all, how could a poor girl from the countryside defeat the daughter of a county mayor? How could she convince the president to personally intervene? Once again, I became a target of campus gossip. Every step I took was accompanied by scorching, judgmental stares, making it hard to breathe. Just as I was on the verge of breaking down, something unexpected happened. Ethan, Lin and Emma found me again, their smug expressions unshaken. "We've secured a spot in the overseas exchange program," Ethan said, looking down at me with his usual air of superiority. "We can't let trivial family matters get in the way of our future. It's best if you know your place. Drop out and go home to take care of my mom. But don't get any ideas. I'm not going to marry you. The mayor's family has even offered you a clerical job at a factory. You should be grateful." "Ethan," I said coolly, "how exactly did you get into the exchange program? Did Emma's professor Lover write a recommendation letter for her? Wasn't it the Faculty of Arts at University A? Perfect. This morning, I sent them a formal complaint. An English one, detailing academic misconduct and fraud. I used a telegram to make sure it reached them promptly." Ethan's face turned pale, and Emma let out a shriek. "You're insane. You actually reported us." "I only stated the truth," I replied evenly. "If you're innocent, there's nothing to fear. You're lying. You barely understand English, let alone write a proper complaint. How could you possibly send something overseas?" Ethan snapped, though he quickly masked his anger with a condescending sneer. He even reached out to pat Emma on the head reassuringly. "Believe what you want," I said, walking away without looking back. I went straight to the local newspaper office and told a reporter about Ethan signing for my acceptance letter and Lily Liu using my name to enroll in Jinhua University. The reporter was intrigued and agreed to write an in-depth story. A week later, the newspaper published my account, creating a massive public outcry. Ethan and Emma's exchange program fell through. The professor Emma had manipulated was implicated and faced an investigation by his university. Lily Liu's father, several officials in the county's education bureau, and the admissions officer at Jinhua University were all suspended pending inquiry. I heard that the Lin family's reputation was completely ruined. Ethan's mother's condition worsened, but neither Ethan nor his siblings were willing to take care of her. She was left to fend for herself, her cries echoing through the house. I hadn't expected the complaint I sent to University A to bring about an opportunity. Professor Peter Smith from the university's Faculty of Arts wrote me a personal reply. In his letter, he praised my concise and sharp writing style and expressed interest in seeing more of my work. He encouraged me to send him some samples. That letter was like a bomb, detonating a wave of excitement in my otherwise quiet life. My original intent had been to expose Ethan and Emma's disgraceful actions. I never imagined that my writing abilities would gain international recognition. I carefully stored Professor Smith's letter, my heart swelling with indescribable exhilaration. Years of being belittled by Ethan and mocked by Emma melted away in that moment. For the first time, I saw a new path before me, a path leading to freedom and dignity. The day after receiving the letter, I went to see the director at the publishing house, hoping for his guidance. After all, much of my progress in writing was thanks to his advice. The director was even more excited than I was. "Be honest with the professor about your lack of experience," he advised. "His work is known for its sharp, concise style. Your writing should aim for the same. And don't forget to keep improving your English. You'll need it to communicate with Professor Smith effectively." Over the next few days, I locked myself in my room, writing relentlessly, revising my drafts, and studying English. The director's standards were incredibly high. He insisted I revise each piece multiple times, scrutinizing even the smallest punctuation marks. It was grueling, but I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I knew this was my chance to change my life, and I was determined to seize it. A month later, I mailed my revised work to Professor Smith. Then, the waiting began. During that time, I continued translating works, studying English, and dealing with Ethan and Emma's constant harassment. Although they had lost their chance to study abroad, they hadn't given up their attempts to retaliate. They spread malicious rumors, accusing me of using underhanded tactics to gain fame. They even fabricated false charges, hoping to get me expelled from school. The attacks grew more vicious by the day, but I refused to back down. I ignored their provocations. I knew that the current rumors could no longer hurt me. Finally, Professor Smith's reply arrived. In his letter, he gave high praise for my revised work and encouraged me to apply for an exchange student program. He even expressed his willingness to wait for me to enroll. That moment, I felt that all my hard work had been worth it. I could finally break free from the shadows of Ethan, Lynn, and Emma, ready to start a new chapter of my life. With Smith's letter in hand, I went to see the publishing director. When he read the letter, a smile of satisfaction appeared on his face. "Peony, don't forget about our publishing house once you've become a literary master," he joked. Thanks to Professor Smith's handwritten invitation, I successfully secured an exchange student spot and set off for the program at the start of my sophomore year. Life as an international student was much harder than I had anticipated. The language barrier, cultural differences, and heavy coursework left me feeling overwhelmed at times. Professor Smith had extremely high standards. He could always pinpoint the flaws in my translations and was relentless in his critiques, emphasizing that I had yet to grasp the nuances of cross-cultural language adaptation. "Peony," he said one day, circling errors on my manuscript with his red pen, "your writing is very evocative, which is excellent, but it's not enough. Translation requires some subjective interpretation. Yes, but the primary goal is to convey the author's original intent. Faithfulness comes first." I understood his words, but achieving that level of precision wasn't easy. Beyond my struggles with cross-cultural understanding, many literary works triggered painful and repressed memories of my own. When comparing their narratives to my experiences, my resentment would surge uncontrollably. I hated them, Ethan and Emma, for the lies, the betrayal, and the harm they inflicted on me. Yet, at the same time, I couldn't fully let go of them. This inner conflict consumed me. Sensing something was amiss, Professor Smith called me into his office for a serious talk. "Peony, I know you're carrying a lot of emotional baggage, but you can't let it become a stumbling block on your path forward. You're a translator with incredible empathy. If your emotions feel too overwhelming, why not write them down? Look at them from a different angle." His advice gave me immense encouragement. I began exploring new ways to express my emotions. Delving into my inner world, I wrote about my childhood, my family, my love life, and all the joy and sorrow I had experienced. Gradually, my writing matured and deepened. My words grew more refined, And I even learned to inject humor into my recounting of how I taught myself foreign languages while buried under endless household chores. My first short essay was published in a local magazine abroad. The payment was meager, but the sense of accomplishment was immeasurable. With that money, I bought myself a cashmere scarf. Its soft, warm texture reminded me of Professor Smith's kind and encouraging gaze. After unburdening my heart, I found I could approach translation work with much more objectivity. Combined with the cultural studies recommended by Professor Smith, my translation skills steadily gained recognition. In the months that followed, I received invitations from several domestic and international magazines to translate for them. My first thought, of course, was to help the publishing director at Jinhua University, who had supported me from the beginning. Soon, I received a letter from him, along with a thick stack of drafts and a remittance slip for an advance payment. The note read, "Peony, let's encourage each other and keep growing." Tears nearly welled up in my eyes. In the past, I had worked like a slave for the Lin family, never hearing a single kind word in return. Now, I could finally live with dignity, relying on my own efforts, and earn the respect and recognition of others. In the years that followed, my translation work garnered numerous awards and even gained a modest reputation internationally. Professor Smith never hesitated to praise me, frequently telling others I was talented and one of the best students he had ever taught. While pursuing my master's and doctoral degrees, I voluntarily translated Chinese classical poetry without compensation, promoting traditional Chinese culture abroad. After a decade away, I received an offer to join the faculty at Jinhua University. I decided to return home, eager to share what I had learned with the next generation of students. When my plane landed at the capital airport, I took a deep breath. The air of my homeland was both familiar and strange. After so many years, I was finally back, carrying the honor and achievements I had fought so hard to earn. My uncle and aunt, who had received occasional financial support from me over the years, came to pick me up. Following my advice, they had used the money wisely. Besides sending my younger male cousin to school, they had also enrolled my two younger female cousins in textile universities. Now, both had senior professional titles and were leading comfortable lives. My aunt, who had always been a materialistic woman, had initially refused to take me in when the Lin family seized my parents' pension. She had even stopped my uncle from letting me live with them after I left the Lin family. Yet now, she clung to me as though she were a long-lost mother, her tears and laughter flowing freely. "It's been so many years. You've lost so much weight. Finally, you're back. Let's hurry home. We've prepared a big meal with all your favorite dishes." When we arrived at my uncle's house, my two younger cousins came out to greet me, calling me big sister so warmly that anyone would have thought we shared an exceptionally close bond. At the welcome feast, my aunt couldn't stop serving me food, showering me with praise, and repeatedly marveling at my accomplishments. Yet, between compliments, she subtly probed about how much money I had earned abroad and whether I had bought property. Her words were laden with calculation, but I kept my expression neutral, responding vaguely to her inquiries. After a few rounds of drinks, my aunt finally couldn't hold back anymore. "Peony," she began with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "you've achieved so much in your career. Don't you think it's time to consider settling down? After all, a woman should have a home of her own." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She took it as encouragement and pressed on. "You know, Ethan never ended up with Emma. Over the past few years, he's been helping out at our house regularly. The Lin family, well, they weren't good to you, but if you still have feelings for Ethan, we could negotiate for a higher bride price. After all, you lived with them for so many years. Marrying someone else might not reflect well on your reputation." As she spoke, my aunt became increasingly animated, vividly recounting the Lin family's misfortunes. Ethan's parents had both become bedridden, and the three Lin siblings had fought bitterly, each trying to shirk their responsibilities. Ethan, under the pretense of attending university in the capital, had all but abandoned the family, rarely returning home. The youngest Lin daughter had been forced to drop out of high school to care for their parents. After the parents fell ill, the family's finances dried up, and their expenses skyrocketed. The Lin brother had caused trouble at school, been expelled for fighting, and subsequently disappeared without a trace. And that Emma, my aunt exclaimed, her voice dripping with disdain. That ungrateful girl. Ethan did so much for her. And what did she do? She turned around and latched onto a Hong Kong businessman and vanished without a word. Poor Ethan nearly couldn't finish his studies because of her. I nearly burst out laughing. My report had ended both their academic careers, forcing them to scramble for new ways to secure a comfortable life. For someone like Emma, latching onto a wealthy benefactor seemed inevitable. She's the kind of woman who'd do anything for money, my aunt added with a sneer, piling on more embellishments to her already dramatic tale. All they cared about was fame and fortune. In the past life, if Ethan Lin hadn't been promoted to associate professor, Emma wouldn't have stuck around with him either. I turned to my aunt and said, "If you still want us to be family, then don't push this anymore. No matter what promises you make, Ethan Lin has nothing to do with me anymore. I will never have anything to do with him again." I left my uncle's house only to run into Ethan Lin, who was delivering gifts. He was dressed in a faded, washed-out shirt, his hair unkempt, and a scruffy layer of stubble covering his chin. His entire appearance exuded exhaustion and defeat. "Peony, it's been so long," he greeted me. I stopped in my tracks, looking at him coldly without saying a word. Ethan seemed caught off guard by my reaction. He hesitated for a moment, a flicker of hurt passing through his eyes, but he quickly replaced it with a fawning smile. "Peony, I've read the works you translated. They're incredible. I was blind back then. Emma came back to see me once, but I ignored her. When she passed away a few years ago, I didn't care. These past years, I've regretted everything and waited for you. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you? My parents are gone. My brother disappeared. And my sister is married now. If you marry me, you won't have to take care of anyone else. I promise I'll treat you well." I looked at his pathetic appearance and felt no emotion, no anger, no pity, nothing. If anything, I found it amusing. He was still the same as ever, trying to disguise his selfishness with a facade of sincerity. "Let me guess," I said, my voice sharp. "I hear the school offers jobs to the spouses of invited professors. Is that why you're really here?" Ethan's expression faltered, the truth hitting him like a blow. He looked pained, as if I'd struck a nerve, but he couldn't deny it. "Peony, I know I wronged you in the past, but things are different now. I really need this job," he admitted. Then, after a pause, he added, "But I also genuinely want to make it up to you. Let's start over." "Okay." I stared at him, a profound sense of sadness washing over me. After 2 lifetimes, he hadn't changed at all. He always put himself first, always portrayed himself as a victim. He needed me to care for his ailing parents, to support him through school, to manage his household, and even to accommodate his so-called love for Emma. Now, he needed me to secure a job for him. "Your idea of making it up is to have me continue sacrificing for you?" I asked, my voice calm but cutting. "Ethan Lin, whatever we had ended a long time ago, remember what you said? Even if you regretted it, I wouldn't give you another chance. You'll live your hard life, and I'll live my good one. Let's pretend we never knew each other." With that, I turned and walked away, not sparing him another glance. He never came looking for me again. I heard later that he fell seriously ill and couldn't even work as a tutor anymore. But it had nothing to do with me. Standing on the university podium, I looked out at the sea of young faces in the lecture hall. My heart swelled with emotion. These students, just like I once was, were full of dreams for the future. I believed that knowledge could take them further than they ever imagined. I was willing to be their wings, just as so many mentors had been mine.